Hey there, Future Gathering attendees. I am 2013 World Thumb Wrestling Champion James Tiger Monkey Isaacs, and did you know that you can give your own lightning talk at the Gathering 2015? What is a lightning talk, you ask? A lightning talk is when you get up and talk about something you're passionate about. Maybe it's a project you have. Maybe it's a video you enjoy. Maybe it's a life experience you would like to share. Okay, basically it's like a TED Talk, but you gotta do it really quick. You only get like 5 minutes. Hence the lightning. If you would like to give your own lightning talk, sign up at thegathering.org. And just to give you an idea of what lightning talks look like, we have some videos for you to enjoy. Enjoy.
Hi. So they said, that you could talk about anything, and so I decided to talk about something that I find pretty interesting. You might not, but So I'm here to talk about the first history of people actually hacking. Before people had computers, before even most companies had computers, there was a type of hacking called phreaking. And what's phreaking? Phreaking is playing with the phone system. Now, this might seem weird for us because we have this giant high bandwidth network, but imagine in the 1970s, this was all the network most people had in their house. You had this telephone line that went into this giant network, and all the other telephone lines came out of it. And it was a really fascinating network, too. Why? Well, it's the only network people had. There was no internet. It was also analog. So how your voice sounded depended a lot on what route your voice took. And all the equipment had these strange sound leaks. You would have crosstalk from other people calling. When you dialed your call, you would get these click sounds because it wasn't electronics, it was mechanics. People went on trips, phone trips, going around looking at or listening to the sounds of phone exchanges from around the country in the United States. The reason they were all unique was that there were giant mechanical beasts. This is a small telephone exchange, a small part of it. It was maintained by hand with brushes, and it was just an incredibly large array of all these different devices. When you picked up your phone, that little lever somewhere else in another building would pick up. And you would hear the sound leaks and so on from these sounds. And each would be unique because there was no standard telephone system. Each city had its own, they had general types. You had number 1 crossbar, number 5 crossbar, but they were all individually installed. There were no master tapes for the recordings until quite late. So each recording, like you've reached a number that's not in use, was recorded on site. So if you dialed a non-working number anywhere in the United States, you would hear the local accent, which I think is pretty cool, not from a technical point of view, but from a social point of view. Microphony was the most interesting aspect of it, was that the mechanical motions of the system would leak into your sound. Unfortunately, this is not the best place to listen to it, of course, because, it depends on being able to hear tiny nuances in sound, which you won't be able to hear with all this stuff in the background. Why is this still interesting? Well, to me it is, because this is the first time that people started exploiting security vulnerabilities in the telephone system. And I want to talk about the most prevalent and the most obvious security problem they had, which was the 2600 Hertz problem. Essentially, it's really nerdy, but when you have a telephone that runs to your local telephone exchange and you hang it up, you take a resistance off the line. But the links between the telephone exchanges were radio links, so you can't hang up a radio link. So you have to find out some way to signal that they've hung up. So what they used is the signal 2600 Hertz. The problem with that tone is that you can whistle it yourself. So you have this exploit where you just whistle 2600 down the line, and the telephone system at the other end thinks it's talking to an internal system. And you can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. The box they built for this, it's called the Blue Box. This was built by Stephen Wozniak, who later founded Apple with Steve Jobs, would generate the tones that you needed to use to essentially control the telephone system the way you wanted it to. You could make international telephone calls for free. This was a big deal back in the day when, telephone calls, long-distance calls, cost a lot. I'm talking about like 50 or 60 kroner per minute to dial interstate. So here's some more info. I really recommend, oh, that's a little dark, but I really recommend you check out Evan Doorbell's tapes, How I Became a Phone Freak. He goes through the story of how he started to discover all these different tiny little sounds on the telephone and started to kind of reason his way to the understanding of what actually this meant. And it's really interesting, and he's very, very good at explaining it. You can call me. I'm reachable on SIP and the phone system. And you should really read this book. It's called Exploding the Phone by Phil Lapsley. And it tells the story of how people started understanding how there were all these interesting security vulnerabilities before anyone realized what computer security and information security was. This system was really wide open. And yeah, so check out those resources, and thanks for your time.
If you like this talk, then remember to like and comment. The best talk of 2014 will be given the chance to give a longer talk at the Gathering 2015. Help us choose. Which one was your favorite? Click here to view a playlist of all the talks from 2014. I will be giving a lightning talk myself this Easter, and I hope you will too. Click here to sign up.